All right. We are live again. Well, we're not live. We're back again. So the last time that we talked was a few weeks ago, and then the air conditioner in here broke.
Good times.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, actually, the first episode was in the heat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was miserable.
Yeah, and then it got, progressively worse every day. The floor in here started curling up and stuff, and
It had its own level of humidity.
yeah, started to turn into a swamp. So all the comics and stuff got moved downstairs.
Now they're all back.
Now they're back, and now we're back. And before we get too far, start out every show the same way, just saying thank you to our sponsors, Pixel Popcorn Media Group, Unscripted Studios, James Thomas Productions, and then I am personally enhanced by highly medicated marijuana.
I'm over here.
Yeah, he's over there not medicated.
No.
I need that book.
Yeah, you got your notes in there.
Yeah, because I'm medicated.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see. What's that? No, tripping balls.
No.
That's the wrong thing.
No. For the 21st.
Oh, that's about beef when they tripped balls.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's right before. Oh, okay, yeah. So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
There you go.
That's the second one, right?
Yes. Into the Spider-Verse was the first one.
Now he's going across it.
And then he's going to go beyond it.
Yeah. He's going to go beyond.
I mean, I would say first off, the movie's been out for 2-3 weeks now. So if you haven't seen it, that's kind of on you. We're not gonna get super spoilery with it, but we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, we won't tell you stuff like Miles being the anomaly and they want to kill him now, and Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara is an ass fuck.
He's always been though.
Right. Well, I didn't read 2099, so I didn't know that until now.
Look at him. He's like the biggest edgelord ever. He's just like, I'm dark and mysterious and brooding.
Yeah, but I didn't know that until 3 weeks ago or whatever when I saw that. I didn't read Spider-Man 2099. Certain storylines, I guess I just let go, and that was one of them. Like
Ben Reilly is the other.
I actually read some of the Ben Reilly stuff.
You read a lot of it, but
and then I was like,
fell off.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah. I like Ben Reilly in the movie, I guess. He was funny as a toss-away Spider-Man.
Apparently that was, it was Andy Samberg was the voice of him.
The
remember Hotel
the brother
Transylvania?
from Step Brothers, the gay brother from Step Brothers?
No, the gay brother from I Love You, Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
But J.K. Simmons is the dad?
Yes.
Okay, I have those movies twisted up in my mind. Yes, I
Close
know.
enough. Okay, yeah, that's Andy Samberg.
Okay, yeah, I got the right
Which,
guy.
I think is actually fantastic for him to be Ben Reilly.
No, yeah, that's funny. It was funny. So the movie, what did I write down here? Oh, yeah. It starts out with a 10-minute action sequence of just Gwen. And, I went to see Miles. I don't have anything against Gwen. I think she's a cool character, but I was super confused by the 10-minute lead-in of Gwen before you ever see Miles. And they tell you that it's a Spider-Man movie. I'm like, wait,
See,
is it Gwen movie?
I think the issue that I had with that was more of the fact that, because that was how the first one ended was, she opened up the portal, says hi to Miles, and then that was it. And this one kind of I guess shows that prior, I guess. That's what she was doing in the meantime, I guess. That's all I can imagine, but...
Yeah, which, I get that, but then they spend the first 45 minutes of the movie basically taking you through that still. She's being... What's the right word?
Ostentatious.
Secretive. So she's keeping things from Miles. She seems to be doing something they present her in a way where it's like, okay, so she's monitoring. Why is she monitoring him? Why is she here?
Right, or like, why is she tracking down Spot?
Yeah, and so I don't know. And then by the time they introduce Spot and you realize he's going to be the conflict of the movie, I think I was already at that point a little like, let's go.
Right. No, I definitely think that the pacing was, for me, was a little off. I mean, I'll still go see it again to reevaluate it, but at least on a first watch, it definitely felt a little slower. And I mean, for both of us too, because we didn't know that it was going to be a setup for a trilogy.
Yeah.
So it was one of those like, it just kind of feels like it falls into that like middle movie trope where it's like, okay, well, stuff happens, but it doesn't, like, because they're setting it up for the big battle for the final movie. But like in this one, again, I still enjoyed it. I will see it again, but
yeah,
I didn't like it as much as the first one for sure.
No, the first one to me I thought was excellent.
I would agree.
And then, yeah, it is the second movie curse maybe that happens a lot of times with a trilogy type setting, is that. But see, that to me is, I feel like, and we'll talk about something in a minute where it kind of isolates a better approach of the trilogy. But if the story doesn't need to be 3 movies long, I don't think that it should be 3 movies long. I think you should capture it in 2 movies, and the studio will never do that, because if they're about to make, $700 or $800 million at the box office with the second movie, that would never be considered a failure.
What did we just watch that was a 2-movie thing that we were both like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, you get to this point, you tell your story, and then that's it.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah, I can't for the life of me think of what it was.
It's a lot of bowls ago for me. Like,
but no, I mean, to like an earlier conversation we had, though, about just that idea of filmmaking, it's like the first one on its own is its own movie. And I know probably because they didn't think originally they were going to do as well or get a sequel, and that's fine. You have your own movie. But I still think they could at least do another whole movie isolated. You can still do a trilogy where it's still the same continuous story, but I think it feels weird when you have part 1 is its own isolated thing, and then part 2 and 3 is like, well, that's one story. So it's like you're doing 2 films, but you're still doing 3.
Yeah.
Like,
or
like The Hobbit, where it's 3 films when it should be 1, maybe 1.5.
That's a different whole.
Yeah, I know. Peter Jackson likes to get crazy with it.
Yeah, that's a different ball of wax for sure. But yeah. See, I put that there too long to build the fucking point.
Well, then by the time it gets to the point, you're kind of like, well, the movie's over.
Yeah, and I think Spot became cool by the end. I liked his humor the whole time.
Well, sure. I mean, Jason Schwartzman was also a perfect voice for it. I thought he was hilarious.
And so I thought that was good. I felt like that's a villain that could be wrapped up in a single movie.
Yeah.
And I think they should have wrapped that part up and left Miguel, whatever.
O'Hara.
Yeah. Left him as the overarching villain of the third movie, because, I mean, in a way, he is going to be the villain. He's trying to eliminate Miles.
Right. It went my friend Derek and I had talked about this, and, at the end of the day, he's still a Spider-Man, this being Miguel, and he should do what's right, but I also don't think that, like, he's what is the embodiment of a Spider-Man, because, in the first one, Peter talks to Miles, and it's like, how do I save the world? And Peter goes, well, you don't. You just save one person at a time. Whereas in this one, Miguel is like, you can't save one person, you save the world. Like, his ideals are so skewed and opposite compared to, like, that of your typical Spider-Man.
Yes, and I don't know that character well enough to know what did he do. Like, they show you that he tried to control everything in his personal life, and then things went wrong, and he screwed up everything with his own.
I've been looking around, and I feel like people are speculating that it's not that he thinks that because Miles the anomaly is because Miles is an anomaly that, like, this is what's going to happen. It's like because he took the place of a person that died, in this case, the other Miguel.
Right.
That's why that world crumbled and collapsed. Whereas instead of, like if Miles saves his dad, sure, he ruins a canon event, but things are still fine. It doesn't destroy the world.
Well, yeah, that's why it's different to me, and that's why I think Miguel is
A dick.
the unrealized. He would have been a good unrealized villain because he could have had at some point to come to the grips with the fact that he screwed everything up.
Right.
He's the problem.
Well, and I think
And then-
deep down, I think he does know that, but he's not brave enough or willing to at least admit that.
And that's why either he has to go one of two directions. He has to go crazy and become the villain.
Which would be fucking awesome to have an actual bad Spider-Man.
Right.
That's not Doc Ock.
Yeah, that would be cool. Or he's going to get all schmarmy and be like, I'm a douche.
Yeah.
Let's solve this together.
I'm so
now."
sorry I did this. Let's put aside our differences and be Spider-Man together.
Yeah, like that. And so, I guess I didn't love the universe building they had to do to get this to be a 3-movie deal.
Yeah.
And then I know I'm getting old,
Sucker.
I like art. I love art even.
Art's great.
And I love all kinds of art. Like if you look around everywhere, I got different kinds of art everywhere. The
Yeah.
thing about this particular movie, though, that drove me crazy is it's not even just frame to frame. Sometimes on the same frame on screen, you're being forced to look at 5 different art styles that are just not joined together with each other. It made my eyes and my ADD crazy.
It can be extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, again, we had talked about it, in the first one, they were all in Miles's universe and they weren't in, they didn't jump properly. And so I think it kind of makes sense that they all have that similar art style.
Sure.
And I like the fact that, because they can all do interdimensional travel, they can keep their own style. But I do agree with the fact that it's there's a lot going on. I mean, the fact with Spider-Punk, he's animated on 3s, so he moves entirely different in the first place. But then on top of which, he's got those kind of punk cutouts, which again, they look cool. I like them, but it's a lot.
Yeah,
in your face.
I just didn't I think that, and that's part of what I think a lot of those characters to me, they felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we just need to throw as many Spider-Men in here as possible, which is one of the things I didn't like about the newest Spider-Man live action movie.
What was it, No Way Home?
The circle jerk meme one,
Yeah.
whatever that is. That what it's called? No Way Home.
The one with Tom Holland, Tobey
Where
Maguire.
all 3 Spider-Men are pointing at each other like idiots. Like,
Well, I mean,
we're
that's
all
just a
here.
meme in general, but yes.
Yeah, that's the one, right?
Yeah.
I thought that, to me, that was, too much. And, you're not going to dive into all these characters.
Right.
You're not going to go make a Spider-Punk movie. I'm sorry, you're not. If you do, you're an idiot.
They could do a mini series. I think that'd be kind of cool, 3 or 4 episodes.
I mean, they could, and
they're
that
not.
would be
We-
interesting to you.
Sure.
But I would have no interest because I thought the character sucked. I had no interest in punk rock Spider-Man after the movie ended. I didn't have any interest in it.
I don't even know how many issues he has. Because I know that he does exist, but it's one of those things where, because again, I've done no research on it. He might only have 3 or 4 actual issues. He probably has more, but I don't think he really has enough of a following. People might know who he is, the diehard Spider-Man fans, but that's anything. You could look and be like, oh, there's that Spider-Man that showed up one time in 1998.
Right. And so,
I like the fact that they did their research. I think that's really cool. The dedication and appreciation for all of the characters is, I think that's awesome.
yeah, I won't say that they did a bad job on that part. I just thought that throwing them all in there was
It's
so forced, and to get to the point, because the whole point of it is Gwen is forming a team to save Miles in the end. That's what it's all about. But it took 2 hours and 50, or how long
I think
was
it's
that thing?
2 hours and 18 minutes.
Was it really? It felt longer.
I know. Like I said, I think that's where the pacing has the issue. Because we left and I was like, was that close to 3 hours? And I looked and I was like, it wasn't. Again, I like the movie, but pacing is always an issue.
Yeah.
this is from years ago, but which one was it? I think it was Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I think that's
Was that the first Rey movie?
I think that's the second one. I think it's episode 8 technically.
Okay.
But I watched that and I remember I left and I was like, was that like 4 hours long? And it was like 2, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is a train wreck. And a lot of people love that one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's their opinion. Whatever.
I mean, I like, but I'm a sucker for like a female hero.
Well,
so,
sure.
Like I love Rey. I just think she's super cute, and so for me, the movie, even if
I that was just one of those like I couldn't look past anything. Like the movie was just so slow for me. That's where I was like, I can't.
yeah,
But
I get that. I get that.
there was I mean, I like the jokes that are in Spider-Verse, like the less forced jokes. So like with Donald Glover as the Prowler.
The human version, like yeah.
Which,
Like,
so I thought that was funny, just because obviously in Spider-Man: Homecoming he plays Aaron Davis, never really got to actually like be the Prowler, and so this was his way of doing it, which I thought was kind of funny. But I think it's Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, when Miles goes to his uncle's house. His uncle's watching an episode of Community, which was Donald Glover was on. And it's the episode where he wakes up with a Spider-Man pajama shirt on. So like it kind of comes full circle, but I was like, that's funny. Like there's all this attention to detail, and I like that. But you know, obviously like, again, I really like the joke. I think it's funny, but I know you didn't really care for it when all the Spider people start pointing at each other.
yeah. I just that to me is part of what's happening with, and I think that's another example of me where I'm getting old. Like, what would you even say that is? Is that callback culture?
Probably.
Like, you know, so like that's basically a callback to a meme that had millions of views and interest, and so that moment in
which
the movie,
they did in the first one too, at the end with Miguel, where he goes to 1967. They do the whole pointing.
Yeah,
and it's still funny to me, but I see your perspective of it too, where it's like, all right, like let's just get on with this.
Well, yeah, because it's. And it won't happen in everything, but that's part of things that are just going to start creeping into dialogue and story narratives now. Is that is a social joke,
right?
And it's socially relevant, and so like people laugh at it. But I didn't find it funny the first time.
Fair.
So anytime they shoehorn it into wherever they put it, I'm still not going to be like. I'm not going to find it humorous still.
Right. Well, and I guess, let me ask you this, though. So, obviously, because you are older, and like we both know, Spider-Man, at the end of the day, like it's for children, it's for kids, but it's for all ages as well.
Yeah.
But would you say, like, doing stuff like that, like, more as, like, not a cash grab, but just, like, a low bar as far as, like, comedy, would you kind of just feel like that's just insulting to you as a viewer, where it's like, you've stuck with it for all these years because you are a fan, you're still going to see it. Like, do you think it's a little insulting that they're gearing more towards the younger audience, or?
No, I don't find it insulting. I find it, but I do find that it puts them in a box.
Well, because now they're expected to do it every time.
Well, they need to do something like that every time, but also now that meme it has a shelf life. And so when you go back in time and it's just like, why are they all pointing at each other? That becomes just a really stupid moment now.
Right.
It's like, makes no sense. It has no fabric to the reality. Everybody's so concerned with continuity and all that. And then you put stuff like that in there that is like, it means nothing.
Right.
And so I think later on, you know, if you watch those movies, you're going to go, well, a lot of this is just kitschy bullshit, you know, and that's why this movie wasn't shorter.
Right. Well, and I mean, again, not to keep droning on about the length of it, but like, I think that's why I don't want to really officially give like a full stance review on this movie, because it's not, I haven't seen the whole thing yet, you know. I'm still waiting for part 2 to come out for next year. So once I see that, then I can say, okay, this as a whole is good, but right now, it's like, okay, so there's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then there's the first half of the second movie. Like, That's kind of how I look at that.
Pretty much. Yeah, I can agree with that. And yeah, I don't think it was bad. I just think it was
Different.
yes.
But no, I mean, to segue though to movies that I would say do a way better job as far as like setting up multiple movies or a trilogy would be Becky.
Yeah. So was it last year? I think I found that movie.
Last year, the year before, I think.
Something like that, and I saw it, and I just went, "Well, I'm curious."
Right.
And I know, like they say, don't judge a book by its cover, but I often will judge a movie by its
Title.
cover.
Yeah.
And
And it's
box
funny
art.
too because we both have connections to Becky's.
That's true. Both of us have a Becky in our life, a sister and a mom, and
Yep.
so that on top of it was an extra, like, well, let's see what this is all about.
Right.
And so, you put the movie on expecting nothing. At least I don't know. I don't think I told you much about it.
I watched it for the first time last week. You watched it a couple years ago, and I meant to. I just never got around to it. But I knew the basic fundamentals of the movie because I think I watched the first 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then ended up leaving. But yeah, like going in knowing nothing, it does not set you up or prepare you at all for what happens.
No, and you also kind of, I don't remember the opening credits, but Kevin James is in the movie.
Yeah, in the first one, yeah.
In the first one, Becky, and I like him. Like, I think he's hilarious.
Fantastic. Well, because I remember you told me that he was in it, and I was like, oh, so it's going to be just kind of like like a kitschy, kind of like dumb movie. And
right.
You're like, no, that's not at all what this is.
Yeah, and because that's what I expected, I'm like, it's going to be some form of a comedy because that's typically his
name
lane.
is attached to those things.
Right, and so I want to talk about the movie, telling people that they need to watch it because it's absolutely crazy.
It is fantastic. I mean, the intro credits, I would say, they're not really going to prepare you for it, but they'll give you an idea as to what to expect because it's very like, I mean, the best way I can think to describe it, I don't know the particular style, but like Spider-Man Homecoming, the credits, how it's like all the drawings and like the stop motion animation with like the words moving. It's a lot like that.
It basically, I think why they did that is to help you realize that the pace of this movie is going to be frenetic.
Oh, it goes 0 to 100 so fast.
And so, but so you're not expecting it. I don't want to give anything away, but Kevin James is not his typical character.
No, he was fantastic in this role, though. Like
he's evil.
He is amazing as a villain. I actually really liked it.
Yes, he did such a good job as a villain, which was totally unexpected. And like, I don't want to tell you what type of villain. I don't want to tell anybody
what it's about. Well, and like, because it's been out since, I think the first one was 2020, the new one is 2023.
Yeah.
But no, oh man, because not to go into what it's about. I had my own perception because again, I knew the basic plot. And I knew what the characters were. And I was like, okay, there's going to be a friendship between these two characters for some reason. I was so wrong. Yeah. Well, and like, the movie's great because it's really creative. At its core, it's a basic movie, but it gets to the point. It's fun. All the violence is super creative. And
it's a banger.
Well, yeah, and some of the stuff too, you're like, oh, like you want to look away, but you don't because it's brutal. Yeah,
okay, context. Maybe a little context. Becky is 14.
She's like
in the
13
first
or 14.
movie.
She's a teenager.
Yeah.
She's a young teenager.
So, she's a teenager, and
she's very mentally unstable.
She has some mental health issues.
More so on like the psychotic side.
Well, they manifest themselves in a psychotic way, but she's dealing with the loss of her mother who died of cancer.
Did they say how long?
Her father, I feel like she mentions that it was like only like a year, and the father has already moved on.
And he's got a new fiance.
Has found a new fiance. They're going to the lake house together to introduce her to the new fiance. So like emotionally, her life is
in
about as
shambles.
chaotic as it can be
For sure.
for a teenager who thinks the end of the world is everything.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and then a twist of fate happens that brings Kevin James and his villainy
And his posse.
or villainy or whatever that word would be. Yeah, his posse of guys to the party.
Yeah.
And then
It just goes off the rails.
yeah, so you have a very uncomfortable opening dialogue with Kevin James and the new fiance, and you go, oh, this is about to turn. Like, this is about to turn really bad.
Yep.
And it does.
Well, and then I mean, like that. It's not super brutal in the sense of like visually, but when because they at one point they grab Joel McHale, who's the dad,
Yeah.
and they just start torturing him to basically get questions he doesn't know the answer to, and you're just watching and you're like, oh man, like that's like I said, it's super creative how they did this, like
Yeah.
but it's also you're kind of like, who thought of this, like who hurt that person?
And it is Quiver Distribution.
Oh, yeah, no.
Is the name of that company that did these two movies.
Yeah, the sequel, Wrath of Becky, just came out.
Yeah.
And we just watched that this morning.
Yeah. And so Wrath of Becky it's another one that they take a guy
I was going to say
in
it's
Hollywood
another, like,
that you
basically
know.
pigeonholed actor
Yeah.
where they were known for one thing, and then they get a completely different role. I mean, in this case, it's Sean William Scott, who I mean, I would assume everybody knows as Steve Stifler.
Yeah,
in
I would-
American Pie.
Yeah, I would think that you would know him as that, and then he was like in like Dukes of Hazzard
I forgot about that movie.
and stuff like
I mean,
that.
he's in Goon, but I
So-
don't think everyone really knows about that one.
Goon is the one movie for me where he kind of steps away into a
More of a
more
serious-
serious role, and
There's
that movie's
a-
actually really good.
I love Goon. I don't. There's another movie he did a couple years back, and I can't for the life of me think of what it's called. But I think it's along the lines of like Before I Go, like, and it's kind of like a dark comedy where it's like he tries to kill himself, but he goes back to I think talk to like people that were important in his life, and it's a whole thing. But like, it wasn't bad from what I remember, but I can't remember much about it. But it was one of those like I saw he was in it, and I went, well,
Okay.
it's not a comedy. I'll give it a shot.
Right.
And I mean, I definitely liked it. He's got potential, but unfortunately, Hollywood went, nah.
Yeah, but then you also probably think his range might be in a certain
It's possible.
a certain deviation, but he did good in Wrath of Becky.
Oh, he was awesome. Cool, because he was terrifying.
Oh, so that's the thing. Without spoiling anything, Becky finds a key
Oh, yeah.
in the first movie, and it follows you to the second movie, and you kind of think when you meet the new villains
You're going to find out what it is.
that they have something to do with this key, and I'm not going to tell you whether or not they do, but this is what Aaron was mentioning earlier. To me, this was a good example of building a trilogy because each movie ends, it has a conclusion, and then it has breadcrumbs left behind that want to bring you into the next movie and keep you interested in the storyline.
And it's one of those things, too, that, like, God forbid, if they didn't make another movie, you're at least still content with the way it ended. You're like, you know what? Okay, like,
Yeah.
sure, you have unanswered questions, but it's not pertinent enough to be like, well, I can't enjoy this or really get closure until it's done.
Yeah, I need to know.
Yeah.
And this one was also only like an hour and 34 minutes.
I think that's both of them. I think they're only like 95-minute long movies.
Yeah,
And
they're
it's
quick
awesome.
hitters.
Like, I mean, I'm never going to be mad about a short movie like that because, again, if it's done right, it gets to the point quickly. You enjoy it. The end.
True. And like you mentioned, they do. It kind of follows the horror movie.
Trope.
Yeah, the formula a little bit, and then the second movie, like you mentioned, they one up the kills.
Yeah,
there
you know,
are more of a body count.
They make it more elaborate.
Yeah, and then they also give Becky more of a personality. Like
she's kind of grown into herself. I mean, but it still works for the first one because again, like you look at it like that's a freshly teenage kid. They don't know what they're dealing with or how to do anything, and now their entire world is getting thrown at them, and they have to either adapt or die.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, so those two movies together are super awesome. They're worth watching, and you can almost watch both of them in the time you watch
Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse once.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's.
I can tell you for me, those like Becky and the Wrath of Becky, that's more enjoyable than the second Spider-Verse movie. For me, I know they're completely different genres.
That's my hard part. Is I don't feel right comparing them.
I do though. Okay,
just for a pacing standpoint, I would agree with you on that. But I mean, I think at my core, I'm always gonna like Spider-Man more than like your typical horror slasher. In this case,
okay, maybe try it a different way then. Like, if I were gonna pick, because a comic book movie, then
sure,
that would be very low on my list.
Lately, I would agree with you, just because like we were saying the other day, they're enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. There are so many of them being pumped out so quickly now that I'm like, I don't feel the urgency to go see this right away. I mean, for me especially, I pretty much stopped using most of social media.
Yeah.
Twitter primarily, but so like I don't see spoilers about like, oh, this happened or this character's in this or there's a cameo here. I'll just watch it when I watch it, and I love that. But yeah, with like all those superhero movies, you know, I still haven't seen the new Ant-Man. I haven't seen Black Panther 2. I'm sure we haven't seen Guardians 3 yet. And it's like, I'll get around to it, but I'm not like rushing out to the theaters right now. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, I want more variety in my movies right now. I don't want to be that one person that's like, oh, I watch superhero movies all year because that's what comes out all year. Like, I want to get the hitters like Becky or The Lighthouse, like those movies that you're like, it's a little different. I'll give it a shot because then you find ones you really like.
Well, then, and I guess that's why I would pick it first because
it's different.
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't have lulls.
Yeah,
you know, and Spider-Man, there are lulls. Like there are lulls.
No, I mean, again, as much as I like that movie, I would have completely agree. It's like there are some moments where it's like, all right, come on, let's speed this up.
Yeah,
but while I'm thinking about it, because we were talking about it briefly yesterday. We started playing that game of if you could turn every character from a movie into a Muppet except one character, who would you pick and what movie?
Yeah.
We took it to a different level because we started getting very outlandish and we started going for like the weird ones. But in this case, Becky, do that movie, but who do you keep as the human? Because I think a Muppet killing people would be hilarious.
The dog.
Ooh, so the dog is like regular. Everyone else is a Muppet.
Yeah. But yeah, so that game. So you know, and if you don't know this game, it's like I don't even know where this came from. Somebody came up with the idea of this.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of like very generic or typical answers, and like I want to hear a lot is Evil Dead,
right?
Except everybody but Ash is a Muppet.
We were saying the other day. I actually really liked it when you had said snakes on a plane. Everyone except one random snake.
Because it's so stupid. It's like
you get little Muppet snakes, and then one actual snake. Like, the fuck am I doing here? But like Muppet Sam Jackson. Hilarious.
Oh yeah, that would be hilarious.
Like ideal candidate.
And so like I think that's why I'm always like that. The more that question comes up, I think the more you want to think of something unique or what like somebody would never think of.
Right.
And so you asked me it yesterday, and you've asked me this question before, and I don't remember what my answer was. I probably try to black them out so it's always unique. But you asked me yesterday, and I said Brokeback Mountain. And only Heath Ledger is not a Muppet.
Well,
because we don't know. I've only seen the movie one scene, but whoever is the licker, that does that right before the
Fisted right up a Muppet.
yeah, like
I mean, let's be real. He turned Jake Gyllenhaal into his own personal Muppet.
yeah.
That was one of the other ones we were talking about. Was it Warrior? Everyone except Jake Gyllenhaal, so he's boxing Muppets.
Yes. Like, it's just such an asinine concept. But yeah, the Brokeback Mountain one happened to pop into my head yesterday. I went, oh, that's so
fucking funny.
That's so bad.
It was one of those, like, who thinks of this? But for me, like I said, what set me over was just the...
Oh, yeah. Because you, like, even if you... I feel like everybody knows that scene, even if you never saw that movie. I just knew
what the movie was about. I didn't know particular scenes.
Yeah.
So you doing that was the funniest thing I'd seen in a while.
Yeah, because they're in it, so you've not seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh,
I know what happens. I just never had a desire.
Well, that was the first time,
Gotcha.
the very first time.
Did it feel like the first time?
It felt like the first time, and they were in a tent,
Right.
out on the mountainside, and
struggling for warmth.
I just went. I'm like, man, that's so like
vile and perverse.
Yeah, well,
of licking your hand before you fuck a Muppet.
Yeah, well, yeah, but even like, that's just such a masculine way. He's like, I'm gonna lick it and stick it. Like I've heard that term before, but I've like never. I feel like it's in movies, or is it grip it and rip it? I don't know.
Like grip it and rip it makes more sense.
Well, all right. I mean, lick it and stick it works, but
I mean, yeah.
But yeah. So like, I was just like, that's such a masculine way to go about it. He's like licks it like a cowboy. Show.
Oh, well, I mean, he was a cowboy.
He was. Yeah.
Well, and then what was it? Requiem for a Dream. Everyone except Keith David, where he's like, I know it was beautiful, but I didn't take it out so it could breathe. Just talking about his dick.
Yes, or everybody in Requiem for a Dream but the double-ended dildo.
Oh.
Is a Muppet.
Oh, my God. Ooh. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Everyone except Jack Nicholson, just because he really is crazy at that point, because he just sees Muppets.
Oh, that would be good. Or if Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Well, like any movie, the more creative it gets, I think the funnier it becomes.
Well, yes, you have to like, because there's just such obvious answers,
right.
And so like
Alien, everyone except Ripley, like, all right.
Whatever the most battle-heavy lightsaber Star Wars movie is, everybody but the guy with the most lightsaber fights is a Muppet.
I still like the idea of everyone but Sam Jackson.
Yeah, that works for me. Mace Windu's dope.
Absolutely. But again, like him when he beheads Django, but just a little Muppet head with stuffing. Just...
Yeah, but yeah, so anyways, if you've never played that game, I would suggest you give it a try. It can be fun. It can be weird.
It can be very weird.
It can be whatever you want it to be, especially if you're wacko like us. And I think, with that being said, I don't have a lot more.
No, I think we pretty much covered everything we wanted to talk about.
So this is going to be episode 2. We're going to dive into more branded, or not branded, but more consistent content. So we'll do manga anime next. We'll come with some of that tomorrow.
Read up on your One Piece tonight.
Yes, sir. Actually, let's dive into. I don't know. We're going to pick something else too. So we have 2 things. But anyhow, all right, people. Peace. Thanks.